Go ahead and call the meeting to order. Ms. Groom, will you please call roll?
Mr. Phillips?
You say Mr. Phillips?
Yes.
Here. This is the last one.
Mr. Dino M., Constable Office?
Here.
Ms. Register? Ms. Ramsey? Here. Mr. Mayara?
Here.
Mr. Dino T., Constable Office?
Here.
Ms. Stone?
Here.
Mr. Davis? Here. Chairman Lee?
Here. We have a motion to approve minutes.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
We have a second?
Second.
All in favor of approving the minutes as written? Say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion is adopted. A couple housekeeping notes. Mr. Gross is sitting in for Carrie Lathan as the Assistant City Attorney. And I believe we have a couple people that have conflicts that they're filling out.
You announced that at the beginning of the item, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
In question.
Sure. So we'll move on to item DEV 2013-109, the site plan for 15 Boardwalk. This is continued from previous months. And we have two conflicts, Ms. Doan and Mr. Paskalakis.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, yes.
And they'll fill out the forms and they won't vote on the item.
Okay. So moving along, is there anybody here to present for the proposed site plan?
Good evening, Parker Mitchenberg, 1729 Ridgewood Avenue. I have with me Steve Buswell, another PE in my office, who's going to help. The project before you guys today is a 7,500 square foot building located on the boardwalk, approximately the south end of the existing go-kart track. We've been through a couple of iterations, and some of those were caused by us, and some of them were caused by some opposition to the project. But we're finally in a position where we have satisfied all the TRT staff comments relating to the architecture and the stormwater system. This is a rendering of the site. It's basically about 7,800 square feet, and we're citing a 7,500 square foot one-story building that's at the boardwalk level. The project sits next to the existing Mardi Gras building, which a couple things to point out in the photographs here. The existing building to the south has downspouts that take the roof drain directly to a trench drain on the east side of the building, and it currently doesn't have any stormwater management. We designed the Ferris wheel and the roller coaster and the go-kart track, and currently there is a dry retention pond that sits in the middle of that project. There's about 4,000 square feet of impervious surface that currently exists on this site, and we're going to be increasing that to 7,500 square feet. I'm sure you'll hear in a little bit about our retention facility underneath the building from the opposition, but we do have that permitted by the state and the city. Make sure I don't have that upside down. This is kind of the last exhibit. Before you, a few months ago, you had different elevations, different colors, and this now has been reviewed and approved by city staff. It meets the code for the 27-foot height. The colors also kind of match what's existing down there at the existing Mardi Gras. And Steve, I'd like you to talk a little bit about the stormwater.
Steve Buswell with Parker Mitchenberg and Associates. I'm the design engineer. The project was originally permitted with the DEP, who's the state governing stormwater regulatory body, with an exfiltration trench, which was then we've done a modification through the state, had it permitted, which relocated the stormwater trench to beneath the northwest corner of the building in what we call a stormwater vault, but basically it's the same premise. It's dry, it rains, the water seeps into the ground, and that's how it recovers. The vault was sized to contain 100% of a 25-year, 24-hour storm event, and then if there's a storm event that exceeds that, there's discharge through a proposed trench that's located along the east side of the building that will then basically pop off and release through the boardwalk, similar to the adjacent property to the south. That's
One correction, there's actually a pipe from the vault out to the trench drain, and if we have a hurricane event, currently the existing Mardi Gras, during an event like that, the water would flow over the boardwalk, and the same is the case for this, except we do provide storage on site for the 25-year total rainfall event. The existing building doesn't have any stormwater because it was built before there were any stormwater requirements. So I think with that, we have Judith Lane representing us as far as the legal questions. We also have a structural engineer in the audience. There was some discussion about potentially this construction would do something to the building to the south. And of course, we're here before you guys tonight, not for a building permit. There's more details that have to be done before a building permit is issued. And those details would include means and methods to protect the building to the south, but I can assure you that we will do this construction without any damage. I think another point to make is I've been at this for about 30 years and designed a lot of different projects in the city, and this is kind of one of the first ones where our design has been suspect. So I want to let you know I use the same good judgment on this one that I always use. With that, I'll answer any questions.
Are there any questions for Mr. Mitchenberg?
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any additional comments? No additional comments? All right. Is there a motion?
I'm sorry, I was waiting to see if you had comments on the board. I do have
I'm
comments.
sorry.
I
Okay.
thought you were asking.
Nope, it doesn't appear there are any board comments. Are there any additional comments from the public?
This yours, Parker?
Chairman and board members, I'm Jim Morris. I'm here on behalf of the Papalambros family, Paspalakis family, and Saros family. They have an interest in the Mardi Gras. As you know, Dino Paspalakis is one of those individuals, and he has declared a conflict of interest, and that's understood that he has declared that conflict of interest. I do represent Mr. Paspalakis. From the perspective of the concerns that we've evidenced throughout, it is the impact this construction may have, particularly on the Mardi Gras construction, and that building, and I'm going to tender to your secretary a plan, which will simply show you that the plan is a slab with masonry construction. It's not a piling type construction or new type construction for the Mardi Gras. If I may, Chairman.
Certainly.
See it?
Nope, that's fine. Anybody else want to see it?
I also want to file with the board a group of letters and correspondence that relates to engineering details, and I understand that you're not reviewing the technical details of the site plan from a standpoint of construction. I raise the objections that I'm raising to you from the perspective of the potential impact this may have, the type of stormwater system that will be used that is a part of this site plan, may have on the adjacent existing structures at the boardwalk. I don't need to elaborate on it further. I know you've heard this before, and this item is before you, and I know plans have been made by the applicant. There is one question that I have that doesn't relate to stormwater, and that is you were told that the building is 27 feet high, but I wonder how that roof height relates to the existing rooftops of other boardwalk structures. I would like to have that on the record because I don't know how they relate. In other words, existing ones, I think, are actually taller at the roof, so Mr. Minchenberg may be able to answer that question. But from the perspective, Chairman, of the issues that I have, I'm going to file another set of letters with your secretary to be on file and let my comments stand at that. But I would like to know about the roof height if I could.
All right, thank you.
I want to, excuse me. Go ahead, come on, Steve. I want to know, Mr. Boswell, how the roof height of the proposed structure relates to the roof height of adjacent structures.
Steve Boswell with Parker Minchenberg and Associates. The top of roof, there's several discussions were made through the TRT process, which determined how you would define the height of the building. Basically, the top of the building or slab of the roof is set at 26.95 feet. There are parapets that extend above that are used to screen mechanical equipment, etc., but those were deemed not to basically be, or not into the calculation on the 27 feet that's required by code. As it relates to adjacent buildings, I believe there are some that extend above and beyond the 27 feet that were existing non-conforming, and again, our goal was to meet code if we could.
Thank you. Are there questions for Mr. Morris or for Dr. Minchenberg from the board? Are there additional public comments?
Yes.
John Nicholson, 413 North Grandview Avenue. Most of what I understand, because we weren't allowed to see that, it's too tiny for the public to see, so I can't make a comment on the building. But I do believe, from what I understand, that there is a litigation between the two parties. And in the past, the board didn't make a ruling if there was litigation. We've waited 30 years for something to happen on this property. So personally, I'm not in any rush at this point. In one respect, the other one is we don't want to do anything to prevent a hotel to come because we've been waiting 30 years for that hotel. I don't know what, and I don't believe you all know, the ruling, I guess it's now what, you would know 10, 15 years ago, what eminent domain happened, who got what. I believe there was a trade-off for Joyland to another piece of property that they ultimately agreed on. I believe it's supposed to be built with Dino specification or whatever. I don't know whether that's the case or not. All we have is these rumors. So if there's a possibility of Dino making a comment, what happened and where, because if they're in litigation and you make a ruling now, it should affect the litigation. So, and for the public record, I would love to have this building built so we can get a hotel, but it has to meet everybody's requirements. So if we can get the facts, thank you.
Thanks.
Chairman, if a question is going to be answered in respect to what Mr. Nicholson asked, I would answer the question if the board determines that it's relevant in the first place, which I'm not tendering to you any idea that it is relevant to your consideration. If you need to know, I'll be glad to answer you. But if you say it's not relevant and you don't want to know, or you're not interested in it at this moment, I understand. But if you want me to answer a question, I will. And I'll wait for you to tell me what you want me to do.
All right, thank you. Does anybody on the board want to?
I would like to know the answer.
Okay. Chairman, please.
Briefly, there was an action in eminent domain taking property from the Paspalakis family, essentially Lisa and Dino Paspalakis. The eminent domain action was successful, and the Paspalakises were awarded money for the taking of their property, also given the ability to stay in the existing Joyland Amusements, which is where they still are today. From the standpoint of a replacement structure, the negotiation provided for a replacement structure to be able to be purchased in the event the main project was built. And then in the event it was not built, which is the position that we're in today, the Paspalakises would have the opportunity to purchase property, the property that's before you, in order to build a building, or the other option was that the entity holding the property could build a building on that property. And there's dispute as to whether or not which election is proper, and so I'm not going to elaborate on that, but the idea was that the Paspalakises would be able to stay on the boardwalk in some form, whether it was in initially a commercial condominium. Well, initially it actually would have been a refurbished Captain Darrell's Oyster Bar. Then there was a condominium plan of structures. Then they would have had the option to purchase space there that would be roughly equivalent in square footage. And then when those two options failed because Captain Darrell's was torn down and the retail condominium has not been built, the option was to be able to either buy property and build their own building or have a building built by the applicant, which is the path that's being pursued by your current applicant that's before you this evening. And there are particular reasons why we have objected to that. First and foremost, the stormwater issue that I raised before, but that is a very nutshell summary of the facts. But then so the perspective is that that's where we are today.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. I would say one other thing, the property under no circumstance comes free to the Pascua-Lacases, so it has to be purchased.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Are there any additional public comments? Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Ray Tabak. I live down in Port Orange. I go to the boardwalk quite a bit. I fish off the pier a lot and all, and I'm confused from what I've read in the paper and what I've heard on a couple of talk shows and what I read back when eminent domain was settled. I thought it was. How it even got in front of this board in the first place. I thought it was legal. You know, I know there's a lot of lawyers speak, and I'm not versed on that, believe me. I'm a retired first sergeant, you know. But anyway, I'm confused how it even got before this board, and I don't understand why you have two tenants or property owners on the boardwalk who have done, I think over the years, I've been here 20 years, and I've seen a lot of improvement on their property. They keep it painted, they keep it up, they keep it well, it's clean. You go in the morning, you can smell the bleach anyway. I don't understand why you keep messing with these people when you have a parking lot in back of the boardwalk that don't meet any city code anywhere in the states. I won't say in the country, but in the states that I know of. And then you got property owners on Main Street that all they care about is tearing down buildings and putting up more tents for itinerary vendors. From what I've seen over the years, I've seen buildings go down. Next thing I know, itinerary tents are going up for vendors. You know, so I don't know. That's just my thought. And the other gentleman says something about it's in litigation. Why are you even fooling with it? You know, I mean, it's going to be a lawsuit here and there, and I mean, it's ridiculous unless you're trying to drain this family of all their finances. Maybe that's the agenda. I don't know. But like I say, I'm just a retired guy. I'm just an ordinary citizen, but that's the way I see it. Thank you.
Well, thank you for your comments, and thank you for your service. Are there additional public comments?
My name is Judith Lane. I have the privilege of representing Boardwalk at Daytona Development. I don't want to belabor this point. I think this application has been belabored beyond any that this board certainly has seen of a project of this size. What I do want to do is refocus your attention, despite all the comments, to Article 12, Section 2 of the Land Development Code, and that is the design guidelines related to redevelopment areas. There are, I want to say, 14 guidelines that you are supposed to examine that are within your jurisdiction to examine. The staff has examined those issues. Every other issue that's been brought before you, as Mr. Morris conceded, really isn't a technical function that you are to determine. If we can focus on that, I think you'll see that the application that's before you meets all of those requirements. The staff approves the application, recommends it, and I would suggest and request that you do the same so that we can move on to further permitting efforts. We have with you, as Mr. Minchenberg indicated, totally in an abundance of caution, not because we believe you should need to hear from any of them, but to make sure that there aren't additional issues that pop up every single time we're here that are nearly impossible for us to deal with because of an intervening third party, essentially. We have a structural engineer, we have an architect, we have 2 civil engineers, we have a lawyer. If there's any professional you'd like to hear from, I think we can probably address those concerns so we can move this permit along. Otherwise, I would simply ask that you put it to a vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
I just want to add one comment that Mrs. Lane, who just spoke, did ask that we forward an email she sent me with some attachments. That's what's on the dais when you arrived here. Just for the record, that was provided to you as a part of this case.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
And I'm sorry, If I may respond to that, and you haven't had an opportunity to review it, what is attached to that are two comments in response to a letter that you may have received from Mr. Morris on May 9, questioning some issues regarding the stormwater management system, again, which I don't think is relevant to your consideration. But in abundance of caution, the structural engineer that is here, Mr. Dave Kittredge, wrote a letter rendering his opinion that the structure was sound and will not affect the structural integrity of the adjacent buildings. So that's in the packet for you now, and Mr. Kittredge is here to address those concerns. Additionally, there was some issues raised by an outdated report by some geotech engineers that were hired by Mr. Paspalakis' attorney, Mr. Morris. Those were outdated, but in an abundance of caution, we went back to Universal Engineering to issue an opinion regarding that as well, which indicates that there should not be any soil erosion or any concerns related to the Mardi Gras provided construction standard worries that this board might have, and I believe we have done so.
Thank you. Are there additional public comments? We have a motion.
I have a question before we go for the motion. Just to make this, in my mind, so I understand this correct, and from what they just brought up and the paper that we just read, we're not obviously engineers. We do not know about wastewater management on this board. All what we are here to actually is just vote on if their designs for this building meet our adequate standards. Now, with the tenants' interest, they are worried about the wastewater going into the building, and they said it's in litigation, correct? Now, what we vote on here is just for the approval of this. If it's still in litigation and they find that the waste management is faulty and it is leaking into their building, all this can just be hearsay from us just voting on it right now. So all basically what we're voting for is a design. It's not, we're basically just spinning our wheels here and worrying about it. So I guess from what they just said is we're just voting for this design and that's it. We're not worried about wastewater management because that's a city engineered policy and it's obviously in control is what they're saying. Correct?
Mr. Gross, do you have comments about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think traditionally, and I haven't sat with this board in a number of years, I think traditionally the boards have narrowed their scope of review of site plans solely to whether they comply with the design guidelines. However, the Land Development Code doesn't necessarily restrict you solely to design guideline review. There are a number of criteria in the Land Development Code that apply to a site plan review, and it would be within this board's purview to look at those, and one of them is, for example, whether the site plan meets all legal requirements. As far as the issue with stormwater goes, there's a specific provision in the Land Development Code regarding stormwater management plans for sites less than an acre, such as this site is, and that provision basically states that the site needs to provide positive drainage and not have a negative impact from a stormwater standpoint on adjacent properties. That being said, this board's not obligated to review that issue if it chooses not to, and in fact, regardless of whether this board reviews for that issue, technical engineering staff do look at that issue. My understanding is there is somebody from our Public Works Department in the audience tonight if the board was interested in hearing what the city staff thought was the case with that.
I'd feel more comfortable listening to that before I made a vote.
The other thing that I would tell you is that if there was a question of whether your decision was right or not, and let's say, for example, this board decided you are going to weigh in on the stormwater issue. First of all, it goes to the City Commission, but the standard of review for the decision as a whole that a court would use is whether there was competent and substantial evidence to support the decision. What that means, as long as there's enough evidence on the record to support what you do, the court's not going to reweigh it. It's not going to determine whether you were right or wrong in weighing the evidence, as long as there's enough of a pile of evidence to support that decision.
Okay. Can we hear from the city staff, please?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Ken Kruger. I'm a professional engineer. I work for the engineering department, the Public Works Department. And I'm here really representing the city engineer, James Sloan, who had another engagement tonight. But we actually work together, Mr. Sloan and I, since my title with the Public Works Department is the Development Review Engineer. and I sit on this technical review team every week, weekly, and review projects like this from a technical nature on engineering. We did review this project. It went through a process of several different submittals of the application and the building and elevations and drainage. We did finish our review on the last submittal that we got, and Mr. Salone and myself did give a recommendation to the TRT for approval of the final revised drainage design, and we felt that it met all of the requirements of this land development code that Mr. Gross just referred to, especially for projects, specifically for projects that are buildings are over 5,000 square feet and on less than an acre of land. So we felt it did meet specifically all those requirements, and just wanted to state that for the record and for your...
Mr. Chair, if I may?
Certainly.
Mr. Kruger, did you, in reviewing the site plan for the TRT, did you determine that the site plan met the stormwater requirements in the land development code?
Yes.
Okay, did you have an opportunity to review the documents that Mr. Morris has provided prior to this meeting, including an engineering report?
Yes, we did.
Does that change your opinion?
No, it doesn't.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from the board for Mr. Kruger?
No. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right. So, Reed, to be clear, the overall staff is recommending approval with 3 caveats, and that's that the outstanding TRT issues be resolved as part of the final plan approval, and that it should include, our approval should include the note that says prior to occupancy of the building, all signage, awnings, and any other changes or additions to the exterior facade shall be submitted for approval, and that the wall graphics as submitted with the site plan are approved by the redevelopment board in accordance with our Article 18, Section 6.19 of the Land Development Code. Is that, there are no changes to the recommendation?
No changes.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Do we have a motion?
I'll move motion to put pass.
Is your motion based on the staff's I don't want to make you have to re-say it all, but as recommended by staff?
Exactly, as recommended by staff. I've heard it from the engineer.
Okay, is there a second of the motion as recommended by staff?
Second.
All right, is there, thank you, Mr. Davis. Is there any discussion from the board? Mr. Paspalakis? No? Any discussion? No? Tim or Randall?
Nope.
No, it was answered, no thanks.
Okay. So the motion on the table is to approve the site plan as submitted with the following conditions: that all outstanding TRT issues be resolved as part of the final site plan approval, that the site plan include the following note: prior to occupancy of the building, all signage, awnings, and other changes or additions to the exterior facade shall be submitted for approval, and that the wall graphics as submitted with the site plan are expressly approved by redevelopment board in accordance with Article 18, Section 6.19 of the Land Development Code. All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
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 All opposed, please respond by saying nay.
Nay.
All right.
And I abstain.
All right. 2 abstentions, and the motion carries.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. So moving on, next item on the agenda is an appeal of design standards for 516 Main Street. This is a request by Greg Pfeiffer of AG Pfeiffer Construction to appeal the decision of the redevelopment director to deny a building permit based on redevelopment design standards.
We're good.
Is anyone available to speak to the appeal of the design standards for 516 Main Street? Oh, okay.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not seeing the individuals that might be connected with this request. That being the case, we can still consider this without them.
Should we continue to next month, or should we do we vote on it?
I think we can.
I don't really see, is this I see the picture of the kangaroo, but I don't see any pictures of the changes of the establishment in here.
Well, we're on 516 Grandview.
Right.
Okay.
But the pictures aren't 516 Grandview.
Well, it's Main Street.
It's Main Street.
It's the corner.
I mean,
Yeah, it's
Main Street, I'm so used to, we had a groundbreaking at 516 Grandview last week. My bad. Sorry, I put that on your, on the PowerPoint.
So which building is it?
That is 516 Main Street. And the one that you see in the bottom right-hand corner is another building, and that is simply an example for you of a building that actually has the sliding doors. There's several buildings on Main Street that have sliding doors.
Oh, okay.
Can you stick to that picture right there? I want to show everybody that I have a better picture of it on my phone. I mean, are we going to discuss it? I mean, the applicant's not here. I mean, what do you want us to do?
So my thought is that the applicant is requesting an appeal and is not here in support of the appeal. So I would think that we could move forward with a motion, a second, discussion, and a vote.
They're asking us for a change and then aren't here.
If I may, Mr. Chair,
Certainly.
just from a legal standpoint, was the applicant aware of this?
Yes, they're aware of it. We've had the discussion, and they're ready for tonight.
So long as the applicant was aware of when the meeting was, then I think you're correct.
Thank you.
I have a question. Why was the director not recommending?
The reason is because we have design standards that say specifically that you don't take out those sections below the windows. And this is a historic building that we're saying, I know you've done it other places, I can see it up and down the street, there's no question. But right or wrong, the design standards we have in place advise that you do not do that. You do not do that to a historic building. You do not take out that section below the windows. And I think one of the arguments they're having right now is just, look, we've got a problem with just the water getting into that area and it's falling apart, and that's a maintenance issue. But from our standpoint, we just see leaving that alone and not going in there and opening it up. Obviously, there's advantages when you can have sliding doors and just open up the whole storefront, because that's what happens when you have Bike Week. You want people to come all the way inside, and so a lot of buildings have been changed in that way, up and down.
Reed, I have one question though concerning that. If you could bring that picture back up. And really, the picture I took shows it better, but if you look at that bottom left-hand corner picture, there's a support pole, and really, there's not that much room between the door and that support pole. Somebody in a wheelchair would not be able to enter that entrance, and I could show better from the angle of the picture that I have on my phone. And personally, I think for handicap accessibility, the sliding doors is a must for that location. But I mean, I wish the applicant was here. I went to the side. I looked at it from the angle that I have on my phone. I'm telling you, there is no way a person in a wheelchair can enter that building. And based on that, I'm totally in favor of putting the sliding glass doors, because I just don't see how the room is there. I mean, and you can't remove the support pole because that overhang will collapse.
I have another question.
Those doors open inward, correctly? Right? Yeah, so I don't see how a wheelchair can fit in there with those doors opening inward.
You know what? I can't tell you if they do or they don't, but I can tell you that when the business has been open before, they review for ADA on those doors, so
well, here,
it should be accessible.
I mean, you could see from this angle, it's a closer angle. Dustin, do you see that? I mean, there's no room. I mean, with that support pole, there is no room, and it's hard to see it from that angle, because it almost looks like as if there's all this space, but from here, I mean, I walked right up to the door. I don't see how it could happen. And if AV could give me their email address, I could put it.
Just to answer a previous question, in Dino's pictures, the doors say push on them, so they do push inward.
No, so they do open inward.
So Reed, is your opposition to it an historical concern of changing the look of the historical building, or is it the water issue?
It's not the water issue at all.
It's the aesthetics.
It's more than just the aesthetics. It's the recommendation of the design standards themselves
I've been
Okay.
down there
we
during-
provided to you.
I've been down there during a really torrential rainpour, and it comes probably within 3 or 4 feet of that door. It doesn't come in, it doesn't breach the door, so I don't see where they're saying water is an issue. The water does come up over that curb. It's always been an issue since I was a kid. But it doesn't encroach into the property at all.
Here's the problem. The applicant has purchased these doors. They have the doors, they spent the money on the doors, and then they come in and get a permit, and they're told no. Well, that same applicant has a permit, I think I included that in here, that they did this at another building. So, back in, a few years ago. So, they're just looking at, well, why can't I do the same thing here?
I have a comment I want to make about this property. The previous owners, this building has a new owner now, but the previous owners, I was actually asked to help them with the painting colors and the details. And when I went and looked at the building, I realized that this building and the building next door to it, and unfortunately you can't see the colors on the building next door to it, but at the time they were built in the late 19th century, this was one building. You can see the mansard roof goes over both, well, you can't see it in this picture, but the mansard roof is contiguous and goes over the other building, and it has a beautiful pyramid pressed metal soffit and fascia board. So anyway, what I did is I wanted historically to make this building look like it was the whole building again in one unit. So I went to the owners next door, and they had the Harley Davidson colors. So I went to him and I said, we're going to incorporate your colors into the drugstore corner building, so that it will look like, it will look like one building again. And unfortunately, I didn't approve the field color to be this brilliant color, but the owners had already bought the paint, and they wouldn't tone it down for me. Other than that, I was darn happy with the way this came out looking, because, and I got the owner of the building next door to spend under $1,000 to incorporate the colors that we put on this building, and he painted to have all. And we also had the old roof shingles painted with the new high-tech painting. So, had this been a little bit more toned down, I would have this picture much bigger size, and I'd be showing it to people. So, I'm very interested historically in what this building looks like, and I think it's important to Main Street and the guidelines, design guidelines. And that's the only thing we're actually being asked to look at anyway. We're not being asked to look about the water and the handicap access, correct?
Correct.
Okay, that's all I gotta say.
Are there more questions for Reed or staff?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Reed, I just want to tell you, I mean, I'm on both sides of the fence. I have sliding doors, and I have those 23 or 24-inch of blocks. I took sliding doors off, because when the rain hits, that's where it comes in. So he's trying to put sliding doors and taking off and everything else now is getting, we're moving away from sliding doors. We're all taking off sliding doors. Now, there's different quality of sliding doors. These are commercial sliding doors?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
But they don't meet the design standards
Exactly.
aesthetically,
They
no matter what quality doors they are.
I think the intent that with you see the mullions and the way they're trying to do it is providing some detail, but again, it still comes back to the fact that you leave the windows intact in these historic buildings. You do not rip out the bottom.
As a design professional, I agree with you on this.
So that's the city's requirement?
Right.
Okay. All right.
So are there additional questions for Reed?
Well, can you show that picture I just emailed you?
If I can, Mr. Chair, just to clarify, the excerpt from the design guidelines that Reed has in the report use the word should, not shall. So just to use the word requirement might not be completely accurate. It's something that this board would have jurisdiction to not enforce if it wanted to, but should mean should, not shall. So.
Now, if you look at that picture, do you see that's more of a, the other picture that staff took was from a side profile, and it kind of like, I don't want to say distorts the reality, but this shows you that there's not adequate room for a wheelchair to go through that. I mean,
if those doors open inward, I could see. I mean, those things are wider than my bar entrance, and there's no problems with wheelchair access in my bar.
No, it's just that.
But that's not what we're being asked to approve or not approve on.
Have you guys looked at this picture of what actually is trying to get done?
Yeah, they're trying to.
Okay, so it has really nothing to do with the front doors.
Dino is saying it.
No, I bring it
The
up
way it is
because
now, it's
I'm
not
looking
what
at
they
it,
say.
that is such a confined area to go through that I would be in support of him being able to have sliding glass doors because, I mean, it's really tight to go to his business.
So we're having lots of discussion here. There's not a motion on the table. Are there any more questions for Reed or for the staff? If not, then we can move to somebody making a motion and having more discussion.
I have a question of the attorney.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you clarify exactly what parameter that we're supposed to be making this decision on? Is it the aesthetics of the doors versus sliding doors or windows? Or are we supposed to be concerned and bring that into our judgment about if handicapped access is there, and also that's what, and the water getting in the building, those two issues?
To answer your question, I need to ask Reed one question.
Okay.
Because Reed, you refer to just above the italicized language, A-RA 5.6. Is that a design guideline in the appendix to the LDC? Okay. So I think if you're asking what your policy considerations would be, I would refer you to Article 12, Section 2.1. You probably don't have that in front of you. But, oh, okay. So did you provide that in the last report?
It was in your, if you were to look in your boardwalk report, the original plan. Sorry, in your original plan that's part of your packet, towards the back, there is a section in there of all the requirements in Article 12. And they were being answered by an architect for 15 Boardwalk, but it's the same criteria. Just if you want to glance through that, that'll give you an idea of what all those standards are.
The top of the page that you're looking for reads W.J. Weeks Architecture, LLC.
Right.
And it's about halfway through your packet. But the guidelines speak to appropriate scale relationships between buildings and adjacent open space features. Structure should be designed to create transitions in form and scale between larger and smaller buildings. Structure should be designed to provide significant views for occupants. Building materials and design should promote a sense of permanence and diversity of style and detail. I won't read the next one because it relates to rooftops. Structure should be designed with consideration for the effects of environmental factors such as sun, wind, noise, shadow. I don't know if you've got these in front of you. I can hand these to you.
No, they're fine.
Yeah.
But what I'm going to do is tell you that the section that we're really applying here is Article 18, and that is the appearance standards.
Yes.
And that is the section that deals with existing buildings. It's really about rehab. And when somebody's modifying a building and they disagree, when we review something through a building permit that somebody's requested, and they say, look, I want to do something and it's totally out of character with the design standards, and we get them. Generally, people comply. I mean, they get it. But if, in this case, where somebody's purchased some expensive doors, they really want to, appeal this, and one of your powers and duties is to appeal design standards. Okay, so that's what this is all about. Is that you have a provision in there to be able to address the appeal of any design standard.
I have a question. How long has Mr. Matz owned the property, and when was it determined that this was an architecturally significant and contributing structure?
The determination was back when they created the National District, and then later on, when we did the E-zone plan, this was one of those buildings that was called out as one of the few architecturally significant buildings on Main Street.
So, like, after the man owned the property, was it then declared historic?
No.
And it sounds to me that this is not actually a historic structure that's protected by our local code. If it was, whatever determination you were making, they would need to go through the Historic Preservation Board to get approval to make this kind of change.
And just so you know, the background is, about a year or so ago, the gentleman who now owns the building had a part of his due diligence, had called us, and we had some email correspondence. He was interested in the fact that perhaps he could get a historic grant and other grants, facade grants, from the city. That application never occurred, but the discussion was about the fact that this was a contributing historic building. And to actually qualify for a historic grant right now, you have to have a local designation, which means you're going to go back to the Historic Preservation Board and make application to get that designation, and then you're eligible for the grant.
And that's what I was trying to express as the design professional seat on this board. The building is one of the very few significant historical buildings that we have in this area. And I'm in complete agreement with the redevelopment staff that they should not be changing these into modern-day sliding glass doors.
And I think in defense of the owner of the property, I think that they have been conscientious in trying to, do some things. They've hired a quality contractor here. This is somebody that does a great job, everything we've seen, and so we've got quality people trying to do something, and this is a good match for this building, but this is one place staff is saying we're drawing the line here on this particular item, and you have to take the doors, and if the board does not agree, and apply them somewhere else or use them somewhere else, they're probably custom, but that happens.
Yes, I'm just going to say it again. As a design professional on this board, I highly recommend that you do not let these windows be changed to modern-day doors.
Okay, so lots of good discussion. The staff's recommendation is the board uphold the administrative decision to deny the installation of sliding glass doors for the historic building located at 516 Main Street. I assume, based on your comments, Reed, that hasn't changed. The recommendation is still the same? All right. So do we have a motion?
I'll motion.
A motion?
You must motion in the affirmative, and then you can vote against it afterwards.
Yes.
Correct.
I approve it.
So
to deny it. A motion to approve so we can vote.
So your motion is that you recommend...
I agree with the board. I don't think they should change it.
You don't think we should change it in your site?
Your motion has to be in the affirmative. So basically, what the motion that I hear you make, and you confirm, is that you recommend that we approve the installation of sliding glass doors for the historic building located at 516.
No, I do not want that.
But the motion has to be in the affirmative.
Okay, I'll tell you what. I move for approval of item 5, appeal of design standards, 516 Main Street.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor of approving the modification?
Oh, you need to open it up for...
I'm sorry. Is there a public comment? Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
John Nicholson, 413 North Granbury Avenue. 20 years ago, Tracy Remark, Gary Libby, Barbara Whitehead, and several others went through the city creating historic districts. There were a lot more buildings that were historic on Main Street at the time. They have been since torn down. We just tore down a couple the other day. This is one of the few blocks, city blocks, with a lot of old buildings all in a row. There's been nothing tampered with in any of the other buildings in this corridor. It has the old theater, what used to be a theater, 2 doors down. So I'm asking you to remember that we have very few historic buildings left. I think there's 5 of them that the latest approval came through. We've already heard that water will be a problem with the new doors. I've remodeled, I think, maybe 12, 14 commercial buildings over the years. ADA is very adamant, but it's 36 inches. There is 4 to 5 feet spacing between the pole and the wall, so it's more than accessible for handicap. So the handicap is not an issue. The window would be a problem, and historically, Suzanne is correct, it is one building. If you look at the rooftop and all, if you do this, it will destroy the top and bottom. You have a historic up here and then not down here. So I'm asking you to deny this because of the historical preservation. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second on the table to approve the request for the appeal of the decision of the director to deny the building permit. So the motion is that we're approving the appeal.
Is that worded right?
Yeah, the motion
The motion fails.
is to approve, what this person wants, Greg Pfeiffer, he wants to appeal this item. Now, just because I made the motion in the affirmative, I have the right to vote against it. That's the proper way to make the motion. Okay, so when you say, and I may have been inclined to vote in favor of this if the applicant was here, because I actually visited the site and what have you, but I mean, to not show up and not be here, I'm probably going to vote against it now.
So is there additional discussion from any of the remaining board members? All right. All in favor of the motion to approve the request for appeal, respond by saying aye. All opposed, respond by saying nay.
Nay.
Nay. Motion fails. Thank you. All right, next item is the wall graphic, 431 North Atlantic Avenue. This is a request by Bell Signs on behalf of Kangaroo Express to add a wall graphic at 431 North Atlantic Avenue to comply with Article 18, Section 6.19 of the Land Development Code. Is there anybody here to speak about this?
Good evening. Mike Hanson, 365 Oak Place, Don Bell Signs. The pantry, which is the lessee of this property, which is owned by Kaluma Incorporated out of Georgia, approached us to replace the existing fascia. You can see in the, I think you have drawings here. Do you have drawings? Okay, that does that show the original green?
The green Kangaroo.
Okay, it does show that.
They're also up on the screen.
Okay. The original green vinyl was peeling away, and they approached us to permit red and white vinyl graphic application with the Kangaroo Express logo. And the application was denied until further review by the Main Street Review Board. So that's where we stand at the moment. Any questions?
Are there any questions?
Can you just summarize exactly what we're voting on here?
So,
Mr. Chairman, if I
yes,
could?
sir.
Could the issue before you is, will you approve a wall graphic? You're not approving the word Kangaroo Express because that's explicitly not permitted as a part of a wall graphic. So the sign itself is different. You have to separate the two.
Well, where's the wall graphic?
The wall graphic is this red and white across the entire front. That's considered a wall graphic.
Okay, even though it's not a wall, it's considered a wall graphic.
It's considered part of the elevation of the wall in this case.
But the words Kangaroo Express are a channel sign, correct?
That's a channel sign. It's going to have to be a channel sign if they want to go forward. They cannot have it's in the LDC does not allow the vinyl application of a sign. It won't allow it. It'll allow the graphic to stand on its own. But
But
you
it can't
can't
be
have
vinyl.
that. Pardon me?
But it can't be vinyl.
Cannot be vinyl. We require on wall signs, you have to have the channel lettering.
So this doesn't meet approval anyway, it doesn't meet the standards anyway?
No, that's, well, what I'm saying is, and in my report, what I'm saying is that you're only approving the colors that are on here, not the lettering.
Oh, okay.
Just make that very clear for everybody, that this is not an approval of what you're seeing here with the lettering, but everything else you see as the graphic, which staff supports, staff thinks it's fine to have that. This is close to the E-zone. This, put this in perspective, this is going to be over where the Russian hotel that is going to be located there in that,
Right.
that corner.
Mhm.
In fact, they were in today, so that project is still alive and moving forward.
Good.
Okay?
Can I, yes, I'm sorry. Can I ask you something? This is an awning?
It's actually aluminum fascia. The aluminum is a substrate, and then the graphic,
But there's a
vinyl
structure
graphic.
out of aluminum.
Yes.
It's 24 inches or something like that out. So basically, it's an awning covering the part of the building.
A big fascia board.
Yeah, it's a large fascia, and we're considering it part of the elevation and wall of the structure.
But what I'm saying, it's sticking out of the building.
Correct.
Yes, okay. So it's an awning.
Are there any further questions for the gentleman? All right.
And if I may
Sorry,
comment, as I
just
understand it.
One more question, I'm sorry. Is this the company's standard, I mean, this is the new colors they're going with everywhere?
Yes, yeah, they're doing that at about 2,000 locations. They're trying to
Same
change. Yes, exactly the same.
So basically, this sign over here is duplicated how many times?
They have over 2,000 locations. Of course, it varies from
So they did a lot of
city to
work with
city.
the site on this first, and then they're going all over.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions for the gentleman?
So as I understand it, there will be a separate permit required to put
Get
up
the channel
letters.
lettering of the same, what you see there, whatever the company wants to do with that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Any more questions? No? John?
John Nicholson, 413 North Grandview Avenue. I want to go back about 10, 15 years. We went through the parking garage, wanted to put some vinyl on the side, and we made them paint it versus the vinyl, the whole 9 yards. And we're going back again 30 years when Suzanne Kuhn put all these requirements on Main Street and the area. Things have changed in 30 years. I'm asking you to kind of expand this. He wants a wall graphic, he wants it vinyl. Is there a way that you can discuss this so that in the future, that things that are now contemporary, that were not contemporary 30 years ago, that they don't have to go through all of this? Because things have changed. We did that with the lighting. I don't remember you guys, 30 years ago, they had the bulbs that went around like this, and they decided that we're going to get rid of all of those because some of them didn't work, and we got rid of the neon, and now the neon is coming back. So I'm asking you to kind of expand this and see if there's a possibility, especially with the E-zone, that we can now kind of look at what we decided 30 years ago, whether it works or not. I think wall graphics and this kind of vinyl is the wave of the future. If we can kind of, if you say no, then people don't even suggest it. If you say yes, there's a possibility that all kinds of things may come up. So I'm going to ask you to take a look at the regulations that you put into effect 30 years ago and see if it needs to be updated. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
I have one question from Mr. Reed. Under the gentleman, under these things, there's lights. There is lights.
I believe so.
Yeah, there's lights.
Underneath
8 foot.
that section?
Yes.
Oh, is it backlit?
You can see it.
No.
No.
You can see it.
They raised the 8-footers under,
Yeah, it would be lighted just so you can see as you're approaching the entrance.
Right, flood
But
type
not
lights.
as, it doesn't illuminate
soffit lights, but
it doesn't
go
illuminate
down.
the
Right.
fascia at all.
no, but it illuminates the whole front of the store.
Yes,
Okay.
correct, yes.
there additional questions? All right, so read the staff is recommending board approve the wall graphic, provided that the vinyl signage with the logo is not included as part of the graphic and is applied for separately as a channel letter sign.
That is correct.
Okay. Is there a motion on the table? Is there a
I'm-
motion? I'm sorry.
To approve agenda item number 3.
Okay.
I second.
Keel, Aaron Sanders. Oh, that's not.
No, it's
No. This one.
Would you like to modify your motion?
Yeah.
For staff. The first item had a DEV number, like planning board. These other items don't have a,
We don't require going through all that.
That's for them.
Yeah.
That's for them. That's for them.
All right.
I
So do
make a
you,
motion, Mr. Chair, to approve agenda item number 3, wall graphic for 431 North Pine Street.
Subject to the staff's comments.
As staff approves.
Okay.
And just-
It's always as staff
That's the
approves.
point.
and just for clarification, your motion is for agenda item number 6, not 3?
Oh, yes, item number 3.
Okay. So the motion on the table is Mr. Davis recommends approval of the wall graphic, agenda item number 6, wall graphic for 431 North Atlantic Avenue, as per staff's recommendations. Is there a
Second.
There's a second. Is there any more discussion? All right. All in favor of approving agenda item number 6 as per staff's recommendations, please respond by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, please respond by saying nay. Motion carries. All right. Number 7, Reed. This is the redevelopment projects update.
We just got it.
Yeah, I think I just gave you the little secrets out now. We've had some people in the building, very positive, and we expect, we're moving along as well with the other hotel project on the beach side, so that's good news. What I wish I could tell you right now is a better answer on the ISB and the traffic circles and the development site over there at the base of the bridge. Those things are still hanging out there. But we've got some real opportunities, and those projects are being worked on, but we don't have any updates.
All right. Thank you.
Welcome.
Any questions for Reed? This redevelopment update?
Anything? Go ahead, I'm sorry, go ahead.
When did the Russian project begin to break ground?
I'm not sure, and I was not a party to the discussion, so I'm not sure if we've got a different schedule or not. If it's going to happen, it's going to be later into this end of this year before we're going to see that. Right now, the next thing we expect is the demolition of the properties that are there, and that's going to be a great sign, is to see some of those buildings come down to clear it for what they want to do.
Definitely.
Are those buildings going to come down no matter what, if the project gets built or not? The old hotel at
That-
the target practice?
Is that what it? I sure hope so. That's the intent.
All right. You have any questions?
I have a question. I missed last meeting because of an illness, and I didn't read it in the last board. What do you call them?
Minutes.
Minutes. Thank you.
Yeah.
Screamers Park. I saw on the News Journal and on the television set that it, after we denied it, has now been approved somehow.
Yes.
Was that from the last meeting?
We're an advisory board to the city commission.
Okay.
The city commission makes the ultimate decision.
Okay.
So we denied it, the planning board denied it, and the city commission approved it. That's what happened.
They consider all the facts, all the information they have at their disposal, and they make their decision.
Okay. Just curious.
I'm actually glad that came up. I was going to comment on that. We had an agenda item tonight, and a lot of times these boards, even the planning board, we have continuances, we go back and forth and really spend a lot of time. And like Dino just said, at the end of the day, we're a quasi-judicial volunteer board, and we're only here to provide oversight to staff. And a lot of times we spend months and months and months. And the Screamers Park's a great example, where the planning board spent 3 months with it. I wasn't on this board at that time. And then city commission, first reading approved, gone. And, staff took a lot of time. We all took a lot of time. we have to, at some point in the interest of time, move things along. So it's not fair to property owners and developers and on both sides of the issue.
Yeah, but I
We're
know
not
what you're-
engineers, we're not, we're not
Well,
environmental
sometimes
scientists here.
our boards are used to be able to see what kind of public comments there are out there. It is a negotiating, so, I mean, we've had items like, for instance, the gas station that came before us, and it brought the neighborhood with them together, and they kind of worked things out to where it could be built. So, and that happened last year, before you were here,
I was
so.
on the planning board at that time, not familiar with
Okay,
the
that's
scenario
right,
there.
that's right, because it was forwarded to the planning board. So, so sometimes the Main Street Board and the planning board is used to kind of like just make things right, And then from that point, and then when it got sent to the city commission, all the kinks were worked out.
I think it was on the consent agenda at city commission.
Yeah, so, I mean, and nobody pulled it off, so see, so, I mean, it works.
All right.
We just don't always get our way.
So thank you for your update, Reed. Are there any public comments?
John Nicholson, 413 North Grandview Avenue. I just spoke to the gentleman that came in about Kangaroo. It's right down the street from my house. There is a fantastic property going in across the street. And I asked him, I said, can you do anything about the landscaping? I said, that is like the eyesore, because once everything else is done, it will be the last remaining 1950s look. There's like almost no landscaping. And so he said they're doing it, but they'll start in Georgia and they're working their way down. I said, well, that doesn't help us because a project is coming in, and the better it looks, the better it is for everybody. And that goes for the city as well. A1A is not quite what it should be either. But I'm asking you to be a little bit more proactive. The other boards are very active in suggesting things. Midtown, the DDA just went through and they had like 17 items that they want to do. They've redone Beach Street. They redid their lighting. They're putting in trees. All of this stuff is discussed at their meetings. You all discuss absolutely nothing, and you don't suggest anything. The city kind of brings you stuff, and you go either yes or no, and then you walk out of here. I think the board and the CRA was designed to help bring this area up. And I know 20 years ago, the board would discuss all kinds of things. I know I keep harping on the idea that the city doesn't maintain anything. It's been 2 years since I've suggested that we paint the railing. Jim has a habit of doing this thing. He did half the railing and not the other half. So it's still sitting there unpainted 2 years later. We have to be proactive. The new benches that came in have this fantastic logo on the back of the city seal, and now 11 of them have been stolen. And they haven't had time, quote unquote, to repair them, and it's been an extended period of time. These things are coming in, and I'm asking you to look at what you can do to enhance. I think you got like $1 million. You have $1,300,000, and if you take $300,000 for city staff, it still leaves you with $1 million to work with. So I'm asking you to find ways to help the residents. Main Street, I know Karen from Boot Hill would like to extend that Main Street that we did 25 years ago all the way to Peninsula, because she feels like the left out. When all the decorations go up, her one block, which is a different zoning declaration, did not get redone because it was in automotive. So she would like to have that extra block. There are things that the residents, the business owners would like you all to do. I'm asking you to be a little bit more proactive, find out what we can do to enhance what the commercial and what the residential would like. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there board comments? Tim, do you have any comments? Robert?
No.
Randy?
I was going to ask a question.
I might as well, excuse me, I went ahead and sent you one more picture I want you to show, if that's possible. It's in your email. Because normally when John comes up, he brought up about the non-painting of the, when the picture comes up, I'll show you. I pressure wash, in front of my places every week. Okay, but what I'm about to show you is, I'm not responsible for pressure washing in front of the ride lots, you know, and it's like, and the problem is that there's when I pressure wash and keep the front of my business is clean, and the city or the neighboring property owner doesn't pressure wash in front of his place, it creates what you're about to see. Do you have that picture? You don't have that picture. How do you not have that picture? Let's see. Yeah, it's in there. It's the same website, it's the same email address that,
What he's saying,
that I
that
sent.
something is, I would just want to ask John something. The money that you said can come out for things to be done on beachside comes over what? Is that CRA money?
Yes, y'all get like $3,800,000, you spend $2.6 million on debt, so the remaining $1.3 million, but then you pay extraordinarily high cost to the city for maintaining the office, and if you get, instead of $56,000, if you pay $300,000, that's all of the debts for the DDA and all the debts for Midtown and all the debts for downtown, you're still left with $1 million. So, all right?
That comes out of the CRA.
That is your CRA.
This is
That's the CRA budget.
Okay.
While Dino's getting them the...
Mr. Reed, do you want to? Mr. Chairman?
Certainly.
You know, the numbers you just heard. The numbers you just heard are interesting. They don't jive with any of the numbers that I'm aware of, but I can tell you this. Right now, we're struggling to come up with the $10,000 roughly that it's going to take to replace 10 poles that are out there on Main Street that are falling apart. I don't know if you've seen, we've already taken 3 out for safety reasons, and we've got more. These are the ones mostly towards the pier, and that Atlantic Ocean does a number on the metal rebar that's inside those concrete poles. So while they look like they're durable, at certain points they just are not, and they just don't last. And so we're having some issues with the with those collapsing, and so we're going back in and taking 10 out. But to say that there's a lot more money in there just isn't. So I just want to clarify that.
That's what I want to ask Mr. Berger. So there is not $1 million in that?
There's a lot of money. There's a lot of money in terms of capital money that's now being set aside for the ISB project. And that's, I mean, when you talk about where did we put our money before, it was the pier.
Yeah.
And that the next priority and the place where that money is now is for the East ISB project.
From the bridge down to the...
From the bridge to the ocean.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Can you show that picture now?
That's where, I'm sorry. So that's where the CRA money is being, the concentration of CRA money is going on the Speedway Boulevard.
Yeah, that's the concentration money, and there is a lot of operating money involved in maintenance, in staff, and because Main Street has the largest income on the front end in terms of tax increment,
Yes.
it pays proportionately the largest share
Yes.
of the overall cost of administration of the CRA.
Okay, do you see the clean line and the dirt line? I mean,
That's the art.
I had my guy pressure wash in front of the Mardi Gras, and then I went a little bit further out in front of their businesses, you know, but I mean, I can't it's not my property in front of, the go-kart track and
You're right, Dino, but I'll tell you what, it don't matter if it's a private owner or big corporation, you can't tell a neighbor I got 7-Eleven next to me, they won't even clean up their palm trees where I do it on a weekly basis, so it's...
Well, it's our responsibility on the boardwalk. It's just, with Dino's, I think, pointing out, maybe filing a complaint right now, that
I might as well attack you.
Yeah, exactly. We apparently are not been a good neighbor then, Dino, if we're not keeping up with you.
I'm still doing my thing.
Really?
Every week you'll see me.
I greatly
but we got
appreciate it.
Memorial Day coming up.
Yeah.
I'm going to have thousands of families down there, and another thing is there.
I will assure you, and our pressure washing revolves around events and like at the band shell and stuff, and we will be on it, and we will have that place sparkling.
Which, by the way, since we brought up the band show, okay, we're starting off with the Tom Petty tribute band. It is going to be unbelievable. And then it goes on to, we got the following week is Michael Allman doing an Allman Brothers tribute, and he's Greg Allman's son. I highly recommend that one. But it goes on and on, all tribute bands this whole summer. We've made deals with Bright House, with Amp Radio. Amp Radio was doing like over $100,000 worth of ads. They're doing, and they're giving us a very good bargain. And they're actually going to do a 2-hour remote every Saturday night, during the summer plus the 4th of July. And they also want to, for the 4th of July, do a 2,000 person a human flag, okay, which that I'm going to have to talk to you about getting permits for, okay. But they want to go on top of the oceanfront park in a grass area and actually have people, wear different shirts to where from an aerial shot it will make up a 2,000 person human flag, and it's going to be advertised galore and the whole bit. I mean, I think it's a neat idea, and they're coming up with it. They actually do it in Oviedo Mall, but now that they partnered up with the Friends of the Band Show, they want to bring that event over here, and we're actually making the move from Hog Radio to them. They're also going to put it on Mix 105.1 and on one of their other stations. And I've been so busy with all this advertising for the Friends of the Band Show and with everything like that, but it's...
That's what I was going to ask, talking about advertising. Let me ask you this. All these events this summer, are they out there because all we hear on Beachside is, how come we didn't know about this? How come we didn't know
Well,
about
trust me, you will know about it this time around. We made a lot of major moves. I mean, in addition to Bright House and Amp Radio, we have the News Journal. We have
not only that event, but
we're in Tour Guide magazine. We're in Travel Host magazine. We're going to be in rack cars.
yeah, but what I'm saying, Dino, it's not only for this event or this summer, but it should be on account. A lot of people don't know what's going on Beachside. They come and they have no idea what goes on Beachside.
I understand.
So I don't know if it's only the boardwalk, but I think there should be the whole Beachside should be.
Well, I could only do so much. If you want to take on the task of organizing the whole Beachside,
So it's not only one event. It's the whole events all summer.
Yeah.
And are you doing fireworks this?
Yes, and that will be advertised along with it.
People don't know.
Yeah,
They
well,
just wait,
like I said,
whoever shows up at 9:45 on Saturday is going to see the fireworks.
If you do not, next week, when we hit the News Journal, when we hit Amp Radio, when we hit 105.1, when we hit Bright House, when we hit all of these avenues, if you don't know about our fireworks, then you're living in a closet.
I tell you what, you're 3 doors away from me, and there's a lot of stuff that goes on around there we don't even know about.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
All right, Suzanne, do you have any comments?
We just need to advertise, all of us, not only us, but the city, everybody. There's a lot of things going on. Let me tell you something. There's the air show is coming this year, right?
Yes.
Nobody, for us it's big because we know about it. People don't know about it. People don't know about it. Anyway.
Suzanne, do you have comments?
Well, I have some things to share about the Hard Rock Hotel, if you all would like to hear it. In our real estate meeting a couple of weeks ago, the real estate agency who's contracted with the Hard Rock Hotel to sell their condominiums, they have created a new store office on Beach Street next to the Windy City. Yeah, right, Windy City. So you can stop in there. They've got full models. You can see everything you want to see. They have 109 condominiums. And they have sold 40 and change so far. When they actually get down to where they're starting to go to bilateral contracts and they start to collect their first deposit, their first earnest money deposit, they expect to lose about half of those. But here's the plan. As soon as they sell 70 of these 109 units, and the top 2 floors are penthouses of 8 units, okay? So they have 101 units of regular condominium space plans. They're going to break ground. They got to have 70 sales that go to bilateral contract, and then they're going to put the shovels in the ground. So,
When you say 70 sales, with earnest money or 70 commitments?
it's actually 70 sales that actually go to what they call bilateral contract. In other words, both parties have signed, and the first deposit monies are paid. All they have up now is earnest money, and they expect half of that to drop out. When it gets down to the real buy time, they expect they'll lose half of what they have so far. But they have to have the agreement with Bayshore Capital. They have to have 70 condominium sales before they will start construction. So I thought that was really pretty good, pretty hip, right? Yeah.
Thank you.
Adding to that, so I've heard it from Henry Wolfond, it's about 85 commitments. And they can't have any type of bilateral or even a real estate contract until there are condo documents. You can't draft condo documents for a building that doesn't exist. So there has to be condo documents drafted before anyone can enter into a purchase and sale agreement on a standard real estate contract. At the Rolex, there were over 70 of the $5,000 commitments. That number is somewhere north of 80 now.
And I think you're right. I think because I had heard the figure of 40 sales in the pre-sales they did, when they did the pre-sales the first time.
No one has signed any type of real estate contract yet.
No, and they
parcel numbers.
No. If I misled you on that, I didn't mean to say that.
Yeah.
They have like pre-sale commitments, with deposit money. Yes. And so if they're up to 85, then what they're saying is they expect half of those to go away, so they'd kind of be back down to 40.
Well, they got it back, yeah.
And so,
They got more.
yes, and so, exactly. And what they're going to do after they sell them is every so many periods of time, they're going to get additional deposits until they get to the very end, and then the balance would be paid at that time. Is that your understanding, Tim, on it also?
That's my understanding.
Yeah, okay. But I thought that was a pretty good sign, because so far, we just kept hearing rumors that, they're coming, they're not coming type of thing. And so it looks pretty strong, I think. Yeah.
Thank you. Teresa, do you have comments? No comments. Dina, do you have comments? All right. I don't have any comments either.
Are you asking me if I have another comment? No.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.